Hello and welcome to the Psychologies Facebook Live. My name is Haulwen Nicholas, aka the Magical Mojo Coach, and I'm also ambassador for Psychologies Magazine. So welcome, and I'm looking forward to telling you a bit today about introverts and extroverts. For those of you who don't know, I've actually written a book on personality tests, and I'm a Myers-Briggs practitioner, and that's why I'm going to be talking to you over the next 4 weeks about different elements of a Myers-Briggs type to think about when you're dealing with crisis, but particularly with the COVID crisis that we're going through at the moment. So I'm hoping that you'll enjoy this chat, and I'm hoping that a lot of the points and things that we talk about today will resonate with you and help you in what is a very, very bizarre year and bizarre times. So thank you very much for joining us, and let me just talk a bit about introverts and extroverts and personality types. So most of you probably are aware of personality types, whether it's introvert or extrovert. Are you an empath? Are you have you got a preference for being organised or disorganised? All these sort of things. And there's a lot of research done into personality types and lots of different personality types out there. Now, the two that most people are familiar with is extroversion and introversion. So let's introduce you to those two characteristics first. Now, it's interesting, when I was preparing for this live, I actually suddenly thought, actually, I could have just done a Facebook Live on extroverts and a Facebook Live on introverts. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I'll try and cover off both as equal as possible to give you an insight into how those personality types and which ones relate to you cope with things such as lockdown and this particular COVID crisis. So, when we look at introverts and extroverts, the thing we have to remember, it's not an indication of how loud you are or quiet you are, but rather it's an indication of where your preference is for gaining energy. Knowing this in normal times helps you to recognise where you draw your energy from and what to avoid stop you feeling so tired. But in times of crisis and times of stress, understanding this in more detail is really, really useful as well, because you'll be able to recognise the responses that you're having and understanding why you react in certain ways when you're in stress situations. And whatever we think, all of us will be having some form of stress response at the moment, but we'll all be doing it in a slightly different way and coping in a different way. I'll be talking about different types of stress responses to different elements of your personality, because it's not just about extroversion and introversion, over the coming weeks as I talk about other parts of your personality type. So let's talk about extroverts first. Extroverts tend to prefer to gain their energy from the world around them, the external world. It doesn't mean that you're gregarious, though some people are. It just means that you tend to prefer focusing on your energy in the world where it involves people and activity. You direct your energy outwards, and you'll receive energy for taking direct action, such as socialising, if I can say it, or interacting with others. And you'll work through your ideas by talking and generally having a preference for phone calls and face-to-face conversations. And you learn best by doing and discussing. So you're the person you'll chat it through as you're trying to process how you do things. You think and you talk. You'll respond straight away, letting your thoughts come out to try and process discussions and things that you're going through. So lockdown for you is probably going to be a challenge, particularly if you live on your own or only with a very small group of people. And that lack of external stimulus, that change in conversation, and all of our conversations have changed, the way we socialise and interact all changed, that's going to be making you feel very, very different. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But first of all, I just want to talk about introverts and just give an introduction to an introvert. So being an introvert doesn't mean you're shy, it means you gain your energy from your internal world of ideas, experiences, and you recharge by reflecting on your thoughts, memories and feelings. Now, people often think of introverts as being quiet and contained, but if it's a topic that's of interest to you, you'll take the lead in and you'll lead with passion, and you can work through your ideas by reflecting on them and direct your energy inwards. You might prefer to communicate generally by email, text message and messenger. And so many people think that at the moment this lockdown is introvert heaven. You know, what could there not be like for introverts at the moment? And I could touch on what there is to like and what there isn't to like for introverts and what the watch outs are. And for me, this is very important because for all of you, this is about learning from when you're an extrovert or an introvert is what your stress response is. I want you to learn the techniques to help you cope in this crisis and what your self-care preference is and how to set your own boundaries so that you can make sure that you are still being able to get the energy you need to be able to perform and to be well in a time like this. So let's go back to the extroverts. Because you're not being able to socialise, and because you're not being able to interact in the ways that you normally do, I imagine you might be feeling a bit flat, deflated, perhaps not like your normal self. You're probably the person who's used to being organising social gatherings or going somewhere to lift the spirits of others and those of the community, people around you, the workplace. They're your normal tools to go to. There's a problem, let's go out, let's do something. These are not in your toolbox anymore. And that might be making you feel quite lost. You're not sure how to cope with it. You're not sure how to have those interactions. You're probably thinking, what do people when they stay in all the time? How do they live like this? And all this alone time, reflection, and time to think is probably quite draining. You might be feeling quite useless. I feel like you're losing a piece of you, losing your identity. Does that reflect in any way for those of you who feel that your preference is more towards extroversion? So this in turn can tip into feelings of anxiety, depression, which may be a completely new sensation for you, or something that you found ways to manage with your social activities. And everything is saying to you at the moment is learn a new skill, do this, use this as self-reflection time. But for many extroverts, this isn't going to give you that energy stimulus that you need to recharge your batteries. You get your energy from the external world. You get your energy from those interactions with people and meeting new people and going to new places. So for the extroverts, this is a strange time for you. But it's also a chance for you to learn from your introvert friends and family and understand their needs as well. Because being locked up in a house, if you're locked up in a house and you're the only extrovert with loads of introverts, I imagine that's very, very difficult. But equally, if it's a load of extroverts with one introvert, that's going to be quite challenging as well. And this is a good time to actually start understanding and placing yourself in the other person's shoes, to understand what they're going through as well. Though it can be very, very hard to comprehend. So let's think about some of the scenarios that you might be going through at the moment. So if you're working and still leaving home, what you're probably finding is that you go to work, but you have to come straight home and you're not being able to socialise with work colleagues. And, you're not being able to, just meet for a drink after work or meet for a coffee. You're probably not socialising in work the same as you used to. Those coffee breaks aren't the same. You're having staggered coffee breaks so that you don't all socialise together, not being allowed to sit at the same tables. And that can feel really, really draining. And you like that buzz of meeting up with people, around the water cooler, making a cup of tea or coffee. And even in the workplace, if you're still going to work, you're not having that same interaction. And that's those interactions that really energise you. And if you're working from home, you might not have any background noise. It might be completely silent, or in your mind silent. To an introvert, it could still be quite noisy. But for you, you're thinking, oh my gosh, how do people cope and work in silence? Because for you, having that background noise and having that stimulus around you, that's what makes you come up with ideas. That what makes you think about what you're going to do next. That's what really energises you to do something different and to make the next step or the leap. So silence can be very distracting, and it can make it very hard for you to focus, and sometimes you just want to bounce ideas off people as well, because when you're just sat at a desk or something, or you're even in a factory or in a shop, you'll just go, oh, so and so, what about this, what about that, and you've no longer got those interactions. And that's really, really draining, and you might not even realise those just little small interactions can be really, really draining. And if you're furloughed, there's probably only so many times you can sort out your cupboards. And you've probably watched Netflix back to back already. You know who I'm talking to here. You have. You've watched all of those series, haven't you? And you know what? That's fine. But as an extrovert, who are you talking to about it? Who are you chatting to about, how great it was? Because these are the conversations that you're having in work. Have you seen, the latest program? Have you seen this? Have you seen that? And not being able to have those conversations and talk through your experiences is really draining for you. And you'll be thinking, but I can't influence any of this. It's all out of my control. I'm being told by the government, by hospitals, by specialists, by scientists, by my local council, by the shops, that this is what I can and can't do. But there are things you can do. And this is where it's time to look at your sphere of influence. What are the things that are within your control? What's within your sphere of influence? Because those are the things that can really make a difference for you. Those are the things where you can actually say, do you know what? These are things where I can make slight changes, and I can actually see where I'm going to go going forward. So think about how you're getting up in the mornings. What you're doing first thing in the morning. Now, it might have been in the past you used to just get up, dash, go to work, and then you'd be on your commute, you'd have that buzz and everything around you. So what can you do in the mornings to uplift your energy level straight away? Because remember, you get your energy from your external world. So it could be you get up and put on some tunes. You dance around the house. Sing, if you want to. Get your body moving in a fun way. Or have somebody that you call, a fellow extrovert that you call first thing in the morning, just to say, hey, what are you doing? And yeah, it's difficult to find something to talk about at the moment, isn't it? So it could be that you have a topic every morning that you talk about. So it could be, today we agree that we can talk about the weather, but we can't talk about anything else. Or, I'm going to ask you your favourite colour, or I'm going to ask you your favourite hobby, or what was your favourite pet when I was growing up, or things like that. And it might sound silly, but it's just little things just to get you having that external interaction to build your energy levels up. Just a 5-minute chat. Your extrovert buddy. Someone that starts the day with you so you can both lift your energy levels. And as the guidance changes, keep an eye on it. It's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? And depending where you live, are you in a lockdown 1, 2, 3? Are you in England? Are you in Wales? Are you in Scotland? Are you in another country? Where can you go? What can you do? Have a look. There's general guidance on the government websites to see what you can actually do to socialise. So, for example, in England at the moment, you can meet one person from another household outdoors. And so find that person that you can meet on a regular basis. Do it. Schedule a time, find somebody local to you, and have that interaction. Have a different person each day, and you find what's right for you. Because you might have slipped into a feeling of hopelessness. But setting up some regular meetups, even if it's to go for a walk with your elderly neighbour, or you find somebody on your street that you make a new connection with. This is the time to actually just, try and make some of those new connections and get out there and interact with the external world. You need this. This is what's good for your well-being and for your getting your energy. Get outside every day, if you can. Depends on the guidance. It depends, of course, if you're vulnerable, self-isolating, but try and get outside every day. Get yourself a raincoat so you can get out in the rain. Dance in the rain. Jump in puddles. Do something to really get those energy levels up. It sounds childish and silly, but you know what? This is the time to release that inner child, because this is where we need to reconnect with that inner something inside us that's true to us, so that we can then find the way to balance our energy levels. And if you're working from home, plan regular coffee breaks. You would have had a coffee with your friends or your work colleagues, when you were making a cup of tea or coffee. So plan some regular breaks in the day. So if you're all working from home, say, right, okay, we're going to have a 10 o'clock coffee break. Put in some regular brainstorming sessions. You need to bounce ideas off people. You need that stimulus. So look at the fellow extroverts who are within your colleagues and set a theme for a day. So like Monday motivation, Tuesday tips, Wednesday wisdom, Thursday thanks, or Friday fun. It doesn't have to be things that necessarily relate to work, because even if you talk about other things, that can stimulate ideas. And try to avoid talking about COVID. It can get quite depressing. So let's try and find other interactions. Talk about your pet, talk about a latest book, have a book club, watch a film the night before, watch the same TV series, something that you can talk about. It could be Tuesday's TV chat to talk about what you're watching on TV. Or sometimes do a working session where you all have a Zoom, but you work at your desk, so you can just shout up and ask a question. So you could just be here typing away, working away with like the Zoom window in the corner of your screen, so that you can just say, oh, so-and-so, what about this? Just like you would if you're in work. It'll seem a bit odd when you do it for the first time, but it's a good way to do it, even if it's just once a week, so that you can get that stimulus back. And if you're working on your own in the house, put some music or the radio on in the background to give you that energy and stimulus, and set a timer on your watch, on your Fitbit or on your phone, so that you get up and move around every 20 minutes or so. Even if it's just to go to the other side of the house, if you're in a flat, or run up and down the stairs, get yourself moving, because it's that movement, that energy that will keep you going. And of an evening, get together with your extrovert friends and arrange a regular pub quiz online Zoom discos, cocktail night when you share a cocktail recipe and watch each other make it, charades via video link, or do some online watch parties on Netflix or Facebook, so that you can be chatting to each other as you're watching a programme. These are the sort of things that as an extrovert you've got to plan to do, whereas it sort of comes naturally when you're in a room with people. You've got to think about it a bit more. And share a daily image or something exciting you do, or document your lockdown life in your own private Facebook group with a fellow special group of lockdown friends, so that you can feel less isolated and feel like you're sharing your experience. And have some Zoom calls where you just chat and talk about life. But also have times when you do talk about your worries, because we do need to talk about that. And for you, externalizing those worries is really, really important, so that you can talk it through, because that's how you help process it and regain your energy levels. And if you've been furloughed, it can feel even more isolating. So perhaps look at ways to do the above, but can you do some volunteering too? There are lots of lonely people out there, especially the elderly, and more areas are looking for volunteers for befriending services to phone these people to chat to. It may be you know some elderly people local to you, or relatives or friends, so offer to do this directly with them, or find your local befriending service to get on the approved list. I know recently in some charity work I do, I've been talking to some of the volunteers, and we're going to talk a half-hour chat about some of the work we're doing, and been on the phone on the Zoom call for 3 hours, because they're desperate to talk to people. So try and find ways that you can also help. Or be the person to arrange things in your area, your block of flats, your street, your village, to get together. So for example, in my village we're encouraging everyone to put Christmas decorations up early, or put fairy lights up, and then the children are going to walk around the village and spot the fairy lights. It could be you set up a Facebook group to get everyone together, or drop leaflets through the door. Something that energises you, gets you that external energy. And there's lots of focus on self-development in this time, and this can feel really daunting for extroverts, but it's a good time to reflect on your life. If you've always wanted to learn a new skill, change career, set up a new business, don't do this on your own, but partner with a friend and put in a regular slot where you share your self-reflection and ideas, and help each other through a process of re-evaluation. And I know extroverts who have found this quiet time both scary and quite cathartic as well. It's made them reflect on what they really want and who they want to be, rather than always being the life and the soul of the party, and made them think about what is it they want for the future. But also remember, you're introverts. If you're an extrovert and you're being loud in the house of an introvert, they may be well and truly plotting your demise. Suddenly their quiet life is being destroyed by the extrovert locked in the house with them. So give them a space and agree times for noise and times for the quiet time. So that's a lot about extroverts, but what about the introverts? So many people will be thinking this is introvert heaven. Working from home, lockdown, not having to go anywhere, do everything virtually, being alone. And in some ways it is. I'm an introvert, so I work from home a lot anyway. And in some ways it's great, but we have some watch outs. Because although introverts have finally, after years of having to find ways to work in an extroverted world, and now they're seeing the extroverts having to find a way to deal with an introverted world, it's not that simple for the introverts. In fact, it's a bit complex. And let's explain why. As introverts, most of you have grown up to be told that you're too quiet, or etc, etc, etc. And you've had to learn how to deal in an extroverted world. So you've trained yourself into how to deal with going to the shops, socialising, and you've developed skills to do this, and then your coping strategies for preserving your energy levels. Now remember, as an introvert, you get your energy from your inner world by looking inwards. And you've got all these coping strategies and you've learnt to deal with it. The thing is, because you're not doing this on a daily basis now, you're losing these skills. And as you lose these skills, now some of those things that you have learnt how to do, they might start feeling quite scary and daunting. So going to the shops to get milk can now feel quite scary. You don't want to interact. Yet over the years you've learnt how to deal with this, and this lack of practice is taking you back to former anxieties of dealing with the extroverted world. I know for myself, going to my local city recently, I felt really anxious. I've not felt anxious about doing something like that since I was about 15, 16, when I used to be sick and throw up every time I needed to go out and deal with the world around me. And I learned how to deal with that, but being locked away all the time, I can see how I'm losing my confidence to do that again. And this is a big watch out for lots of introverts. It's quite nice being at home, but we've got to make sure that we're still doing some of these things so we don't learn those skills that we've lost. But the other thing is, the lockdown world is becoming more extroverted. Have you noticed? It's very easy now to be on Zoom calls all day. Zoom calls, team calls, video calls all day. And social media and the internet is full of videos like this, live videos, which a lot of people are like, you know, hey, hi, in your face, and that can be really exhausting. And certainly for introverts, you're probably finding that these Zoom calls and team calls and stuff are actually much more exhausting than the face-to-face interactions that you used to have. And you're probably wondering, why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's not always easy to read body language on calls. And especially when people are losing their connections and you're doing the shout of, you're on mute, or so-and-so, I can't see you, I can't hear you, and all the shenanigans that happen with a Zoom or team call. And the other thing is, in the past, you went to a room to do the meeting and then you left. Now what's happened is the extroversion is coming into your space, and it feels like a violation of your quiet, sacred space. You can't escape it. The call's going to come up, and you've got to do it then, and then you go off it, and then you do a bit of work, and then you go back on it. And that quiet space, sacred space that you had, where you could go internally to get your energy, is now being intruded on. And it feels like you can't set your boundaries anymore and protect that space. And your extrovert friends and family, who may be being well-meaning, are inviting you to things because they need the contact. So they'll be saying, come to the pub quiz online, Zoom, and of course, you know how long I have an excuse to say, oh, I'm at home washing my hair, or this, that and the other, because it's like, it's okay, you can turn up in your pyjamas, and you're just like, but I don't want to turn up in my pyjamas, I just want quiet. And this is where learning to say no, which can be quite hard for most of us, extroverts or introverts alike, can be really, really difficult in these times, because you can see they're desperate for interaction, you want to help them, but equally you've got to preserve your own energy and your boundaries. And this constant barrage of invites and requests to groups, pages, new social media platforms in itself is exhausting. And then, of course, if you're an introvert in a house of extroverts, it can be a really challenging time to get the balance of space. Because for many introverts, it's only when the house is completely empty that they breathe a sigh and say, ah, yes, now I can relax. But having somebody in a bedroom here or a room there, or you being in the same room and even being quiet, you've still got those people in the room, and just them being there can feel quite draining. And it's hard for an extrovert to understand that, because they're like, I'm being quiet, I'm not saying anything. But as an introvert, you can feel their extrovert energy emanating off them to you, and you're just thinking, oh no, I just want some quiet and I just want some peace. And then there's the constant barrage of negative news, which impacts extroverts and introverts alike, and this negativity is draining. So for introverts, setting your boundaries is even harder now than it was before. You've got to set your boundaries and set your safe place in your own homes to protect it and protect your own energy. So what are some of the things that you can do? So first of all, you need to start saying no to some of these invites and being honest with people and saying, actually, I just need to preserve my energy and I just need some quiet alone time. Most people understand this. And if they pressurise you, just say, please, I just can't do this at this moment in time. And if it's safe to do so, ensure you do still interact with people. One good friend, it could be each week, each day, because otherwise you'll lose yourself to your hidden inner world. Talk to a fellow introvert, even just for a hello 5-minute check-in, just to tell a silly joke, talk about the weather, anything, but just still have those small interactions so you don't lose yourself. Get outside if it's safe to do so, for a walk around your area, get some fresh air. But do these walks on your own. This is a great way, if you are living with other people in shared space, that you say that you will go and have your alone time, and they can, if they're extroverts, can put the music on loud and dance around the house while you're away. But give you some time to walk and process. Just get some time for you. And with those Zoom calls, can you hold them in a different space? It's very hard. If you're in a flat, you haven't got much space, but can you say they're going to be held here, and then my other stuff's going to be done over here, and it might just be even just sitting in a different position on your desk so it feels like it's a different space, and just so that you can actually keep your sacred space, quiet space, and preserve that energy so you're not being invaded by video conferencing all the time. This is really, really important. And if you can't do that, then you can look at things such as crystals or burning candles or essential oils, certain things that you do, so that something you do when you're not on a Zoom call which says this is your sacred place, and then you do something different when you're on a Zoom call to say this is the Zoom call space. Just some of the things that you can do to clear the energy, to say, right, okay, I'm back to my quiet energy, this is my inner world, push out that external world that's invaded my space. And try to get out at least once a week if it's safe for you to do so, depending on the guidance in your area, so you don't lose all that work that you did, how you boosted your self-confidence to interact in an extroverted world. So it could be just go and buy milk and just talk to the cashier, which is very hard to do with face masks on, has to be said, but do try and do that, otherwise you'll lose those amazing skills that you've developed over your lifetime. And where you can, have a day a week or at least an evening a week away from social media, TV and everything. Something with no stimulation at all. Where you just read, daydream, draw, paint, but something that's right for you. Where you can go into your inner world. This is a good time for introverts to do work on journaling as well. So set boundaries with housemates and ask them to go out, giving you time alone each day, if it's safe to do so, of course. Or do those walks, just so that you can actually get some energy on your own, protect your energy. And use this time for self-reflection by doing some journaling, or just staring into space. Light a candle and watch the flame. Think of what you love about lockdown and what you don't. Think about how you can have a life more suited to you in the future. And if working from home, try to arrange a day with no calls to get stuff done. And if you have multiple calls in a day, it will drain you of energy. I know this from personal experience. And then you won't be able to focus on doing anything else. So you'll do a call at 9 o'clock in the morning till 10, and then you've got another one at 11. And that hour in between, you can't focus because your energy's been too disturbed. So find ways that you can perhaps do little tasks, like sorting out your emails or things like that. But also be aware that you can't do the big tasks. So then set a day with no calls. And explain to people, I've got people doing this to me, and I've been doing it to other people, saying, sorry, I'm not answering emails or anything today because I'm getting stuff done. It's okay to do that. And be kind to you, be kind to others, and be kind to yourself. Say no to interactions if you need to. It's easy to think as an introvert that this is a great time for you, but it's a crisis and you need to recharge as well. And as an extrovert, say yes to social interactions in whatever form that's right for you, but do it with fellow extroverts, but also be mindful of what your introvert friends need. So I hope this has been a really, really useful call for you today about what you can do as an introvert or an extrovert in this time of COVID. And if you're not already a subscriber to Psychologies Magazine, just remember that if you subscribe to Psychologies Magazine, you get online access to the Psychologies Life Leap Club. I'm an ambassador for the Psychologies Life Leap Club, and in this coaching club you get support from other people in the club. You'll get access to blogs and coaching and experts to help you create the life you really want. So thank you very much for listening today. I hope that's been a really, really useful chat. I'm Haulwen Nicholas, the Magical Mojo Coach. My book, the book of personality tests, 25 easy to score tests that reveal the real you, came out in September. I can get it from all good bookshops. Check out my free Facebook group, the Magical Mojo or the Mojo Coaching Club, if you want to get some daily inspiration and sign up to my emails for daily inspiration. And the Magical Mojo Academy is my paid academy, which is life coaching with a hint of witchery, which I'll be doing some more information on in the coming weeks. Hope that's been really useful for you. Thank you very much for watching, and I really do look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Thank you.